Hey, what's up, guys? Node Investor here. What's happening? Got some folks coming in. No sound. Yeah, I was being quiet for a minute there, but we are getting started. Time to get on a roll here. We're going to look at the charts. We're going to be doing the weekly live stream. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you want to look at. So basically, today is going to be a charts review and some thoughts, potential setups that I'm looking at here. The alts, especially the alt BTC pairs, which have been in a very long downtrend for the most part. A lot of them going flat. Been looking at this for the last couple of weeks in terms of looking for these to finally start bouncing versus Bitcoin start showing some life. And there was a couple of ways I was looking it would play out, and we're starting to see that emerge. So that's what I'm going to be looking at here. We'll also look at Bitcoin, of course. Some thoughts there. We got some folks coming in. Ninja Grasshopper, Melissa in the house. Welcome. Paris. We'll look at all of these. Yeah, so let me get some note taking going over here so that I can start jotting down the names. Otherwise, yeah, I'm going to forget them. So we'll look at, so I've got all the bigger cap names on my list right now. ETH, NEO, all those guys. Basically what I'll do is I'll go through some of these here on this list here. We'll look at some of the names that are showing up on the trending list. Of course, some of the names that have been on fire already, and some of those that are potentially going to be emerging here. And so let's see what else we got. So I'll just keep some names on the list here that I know you guys want to look at, and that'll just help me to not forget. Bitcoin Cash. Haven't looked at that one in a while. Yep, I have Link on my list. QSP, that's a name from yesteryear. Let's take a look at that one. Cardano, IOTA. It's Friday, my Friday, maybe your early Saturday, wherever you may be in the world, but happy Friday. Wishing you all a good weekend. It's a holiday weekend here in the US, so there will be Monday off and markets closed, well, stock markets and all that good stuff. So we'll see. Aloha Friday. Right. Cool. So it looks like more folks are coming in. So let's get to it. All right. So I'll start with Bitcoin here first, and then we'll jump over to the metrics here. But of course, looking at the BTC, the bot strategy has been real interesting as of late. It's kind of been long, then flat, then long, then flats. The important thing, it hasn't really been going short, right? It's just mostly been in this consolidation mode. Keep in mind the bot strategy is a trend following strategy. So depending on the direction of the prior trend, that's how I'll use this, right? So if I'm already long and then it starts to signal flat, I may either go flat or just raise stops and hold longs, vice versa. Usually I don't trade against it that much. So like if it's going short, I don't really want to be long other than maybe on a short-term basis. But right now it's going flat. My bias is still to the long side, but it's it's kind of been interesting to see the way this has been playing out. My longer term bias is long upside, but I was playing some short scalps here over the last week and a half, and they've been short-lived, no pun intended, but they've been quick trades, meaning when it looks like it's in a crack, I'll hedge, go a little bit short on margin, then I'll cover relatively quickly and essentially add to my net long BTC position and then just cycle it out that way. So the goal there being just kind of continuing to gain net BTC in this environment. But now I'm looking at the long side of alts in the alt BTC pairs. Haven't taken a whole lot of them lately, but I was long ETH, long some Litecoin, but now I'm thinking it may be time to start paying more attention to them because of how Bitcoin has consolidated. And so let's get to that and explain what I was looking to potentially transpire here on the BTC charts. Let's go to the USD pairs here first. So I'm going to just zoom out. This is the Bitstamp chart. You know, USD tracks pretty closely to some of these others. And just let's rewind here a little bit. Some of the things I was looking for. We're potentially forming this double top here after pausing just shy of 10K. I think the last time I did my stream was on this red day here. Things were pulling back. And there's a couple of things to note on this here. I'm going to zoom in. First off, it's important to note that the moving averages are trending higher still. The 10 EMA is above the 22 EMA. That's the blue and the yellow line there. And although we've had these little shakeout attempts, price so far has held those moving averages on a closing basis on the daily chart. That's positive, right? So still holding, but of course the last 3 or 4 days, right, it's been in a little bit of pullback mode on the BTC side, but still within this broader consolidation, which so far is holding. Now, there's two ways to look at this, right? I mean, if we zoom out and look at the near-term resistance, this 10 to 10.5 level, and if you go left, this level goes way back. This is a big level that I'm watching, so something to make note of on the weekly chart, because if it starts to hold above that 10.5 level on the weekly chart, that signals a potentially significant breakout, both from a horizontal price resistance as well as these broader triangle pattern that's forming on the multi-month chart, the year charts, right? And that's still very much in play. So that would signal the bigger BTC, breakout there. On the flip side, right, it still hasn't cracked that level. It's consolidating, and so I was looking for potentially a pullback that would have set a higher weekly low. We haven't seen that, but on the positive, another alternative was, do we just kind of go sideways, set up this base above around 8K ideally is where I was looking for it to hold. If it continued to pull back, anything above 8K for me would have just been, an ideal consolidation. And so far it's done that. You can call it symmetrical pattern. You can call it ascending triangle base. Has a little bit more of an ascending base for me, but that's what I'm looking at, and that's still very much in play, right? So you had this run up, you had the pause here at 10K, you had the pullback, then you had another run up. Right now we're seeing the pullback, making a higher low, and so it is giving that signature of a potential ascending base. What you want to see now is a bounce off of this 22 EMA that does one of these, and then finally we get that breakout. Do we get it straight out from here? It certainly could, right? But that's what you're looking for, is kind of that consolidation to continue. Whether it's a defined pattern like an ascending base or symmetrical, it's kind of besides the point, to be honest with you, because what you really want to pay attention to is just those pure support resistance levels, right? Resistance is pretty clear. Basically, breaking out over 10K would be significant. On the downside, these moving averages are first support, and then if you look at pure price support below that, this 8200 level is kind of your must hold now, because if it cracks below that, that really starts to negate any sort of sideways consolidation that we're beginning to see form here on the BTC part. So that's what you want to be looking for, because in my opinion, if we start to lose that 8200 level, then I think it's a pretty quick shakeout at that point, which could take you straight down to like 7200 in no time, right? So ideally, you don't want to see it crack below this, because then you could get that quick shakeout. Longer term, again, I'm still bullish. I think that'd be a good higher weekly low, but I think the more bullish scenario would be just this sideways continuation, to play out within this broader range, because that lets the alts continue to run. And that's what I've been looking for. I was looking at, hey, if Bitcoin can just consolidate here and go sideways, look bullish, let things kind of digest after this pretty big move we've had, then I think the alts, especially some of the names that are just beaten down and crazy oversold versus Bitcoin, could finally go on a run, and we may be seeing that here. So that's what I'm looking for. So if Bitcoin can stay in this range, honestly, I may do some short scalps here, but as long as it's holding above that 8K, I'm continuing to just kind of add net long BTC and looking for those alts to outperform on the upside and, basically offset any potential downside US dollar terms that Bitcoin's producing if it pulls back. below 8K, all right, potential another question to be looking at here, and I may not be so aggressive on the alt trades because I'll just be hedging at that point to the downside. So that's my thoughts there in the big picture in terms of BTC and alts. If you want to dial it in here, look a little bit more near term, I think caution remains for Bitcoin. If you're just purely looking at Bitcoin price action and only trading this, I think you got to remain cautious, mostly because we've been in a downtrend here on the 4-hour chart. That's clear, right? You could be buying the dips, sure, but we're still very much in this consolidation mode. You're pulling back, you had a lower low, you're bouncing, still haven't recaptured those moving averages on the 4-hour view, right? The moving averages are still trending lower. They're bearishly correlated, meaning the 10 is below the 22, and your price is just bouncing right now. Could be setting up for another leg, but when that finally starts to move higher and break above those, then I think you look much more positively again. Basically, these wick lows being that must-hold level on any sideways consolidation on Bitcoin. So it's a little bit mixed, right? Near term, just be cautious. I think it's positive longer term, bullish consolidation here near the highs as long as it holds these levels. Short term, could just chop and flop here for now. That's why I'm a little bit more interested in the alt BTC pairs at this point until Bitcoin decides to make its next big move. Right now we haven't seen any real big moves. It's just kind of been this back and forth, a couple $100 at a time. So that being said, let me look at some of these other names here. So we'll flip back over to this again. That's what signals this week all around. 4-hour chart is kind of weak, but could change very quickly. That 4-hour starts to bounce. This will go back to yellow. I would expect that the first bot to go long again would be that 4-hour bot, but for now it's flat. Altcoins, however, if you look at the alt BTC pairs, which is what this is, it's switched to mostly green, which is good, and that's pretty evident in some of those charts. Look at this, flat, 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 flat. Nothing's short. It was short last few days. Last week it was showing a lot of short or flat, but you're starting to see more long. Tezos, Neo, Link, some of those are showing some good strength. Cardano and some of the other ones are breaking out. So all around, alt BTC pairs are looking pretty good. And so let's start going through the charts, deep dive. I'm going to be taking some notes here, and I'll try to summarize toward the end, just kind of some big picture, high level names, right? What I'm looking at, potential breakouts, the short list, if you will. So let's see here. All right. Question. Okay, let's go through this here, and I'll get back to some of those questions. All right, so looking at the BTC dominance, and so just so you know, I'm going to mostly be focusing on the alt BTC pairs, but if you want to look at USD pairs, shout it out, and I will definitely flip over and we'll look at some of those here. Winch, and I'll look at some of those Walton, some of those small cap names from yesteryear were all kind of moving in tandem here. The BTC dominance here real quick. Let's go to the daily chart, right? It's been in this broader channel, kind of trending higher. We had a pretty nice bounce off of this 64 straight up to about 69 and change. Pulling back right now as Bitcoin consolidates, which is reflective of those alt pairs rallying. I'd like to see this guy pull back a little bit further, but I'm going to be cautious as it approaches the lower end of the channel and seeing what Bitcoin does from there, because if it starts to do one of these where it drops here, but then Bitcoin is approaching that 10K and looks like it wants to break out, then you could see the dominance bounce right back, meaning you want to be a little bit more biased towards Bitcoin than the alts in that scenario. On the flip side, if it does, let's say Bitcoin is at 9K and it starts to drop this channel and break to the downside, then I continue to favor the alts there. So something I'm going to be watching here in the coming week or so. But let's start with the big cap names here first. So looking at the ETH BTC, I'm liking this one. Obviously, it's been in consolidation mode from a big picture perspective. I was not favoring it here for about a month or so because it was just basically in pullback. Here in the last week or so, it's been really acting much better. Looks great. Had a consolidation. Let's go to that 4-hour chart. You couldn't have asked for better than this, right? It just kind of sat tight let these moving averages catch up. Things got pretty tight in there, and then we get the breakout. So all in all, can't be bearish here. It's holding up. Now, on the daily chart, this is just getting going, right? Notice the daily chart is finally cracking above both of those moving averages. That 10 EMA still needs to cross over, but it's pretty close to doing it now. And so any pullbacks to the line are, in my opinion, positive pullbacks. Hold in there. And you got to, in the long term, you've got a real big line in the sand drawn here. I'd be watching this kind of lower, this upper trend line as potential resistance, but that also means you could have a rally right up to the line, which on a percentage basis is pretty decent, and that's really going to be my first target on the way up. And that aligns well with this little zone right in here as far as the next resistance zone, and then above that, of course, this zone up here. And so on the way up, those are the big targets. I think it continues to rally and outperform Bitcoin. If it just stalls out here and starts to roll over, you don't want to see it crack below this, 20.7, 20.8 level. If it does, that's not good, because then that starts to look like a real big descending breakdown. But for now, it held support. It made a slightly higher low. I'm thinking we get some bounce action here on the ETH BTC pair. Look at the weekly chart. This is what has me looking at the alts. I mean, a lot of the alts longer term are just, man, they're just due. I mean, let's go through some of these old school names. Look at Walton, Stellar Lumens, XRP, 0x, nice pullback on the weekly. We'll get to that one. But just so many of these names are like, hey, let's come back to life here. Wake up a little bit. Bounce versus Bitcoin. And I think you're going to finally start seeing some of that happen. But look at these names. Holy moly. IOTA. It has not been the alt BTC story as of late. But their day will come. Their time will come. And so that's what I'm looking at here. So that's ETH. ETH looks good. Continues to look well here. I'm thinking we get more upside. Just want to make sure it holds. Near term, you want to see it hold this. If it pulls back to, what is that, 222, then that could be a potential good, excuse me, secondary entry, throwback entry, looking for a breakout. But I'm thinking the momentum is going to start kicking in. As long as Bitcoin holds up, I think it'll continue to outperform there. So ETH, definitely want to keep an eye on that one. That should be on the short list right now, in my opinion. Litecoin, another one of the trades that I was in and out of here in the last week, but same scenario, right? Big, long downtrend, very oversold versus Bitcoin. If you go to the daily chart, brutal, just brutal versus Bitcoin here for the most of the last 3 months has just grossly underperformed and finally starting to bounce. In the big picture, right, I'm not saying like this is going straight to new highs and all that good stuff. In fact, I'm not looking at anything near that. But even a partial retracement would make for a decent little bounce trade. It's a counter trend rally trade is really all it is, in my opinion. But even up to this point would make for a decent trade. And so a lot of these alts, that's going to basically be my mindset in terms of how much I'm expecting out of these. If you get more and it really turns into a true alt season rally, then great, but I'm not really in that camp just yet. But certainly this resistance level is what I was looking for on Litecoin BTC, and it's finally edging out here over the last few days. Has just continued to march higher, and I think it'll continue to bounce here in the bigger picture. Again, going back to the daily chart, 22 EMA is just overhead. Breaking above that looks real positive. Then I'd be looking at about 5,300 and then 5,600 as the first near-term targets there. And so you're talking, not a huge rally, but certainly double-digit percentages, right? It's 15% versus BTC. So there's that one there. Neo, looking at the Neo BTC here, still range bound. We've seen these nice little pops off the lows. The positive is it's held the lows, right? So if you go to the big picture, let me zoom out. This was an interesting level to be watching, right? You got this horizontal price point, it's held twice, it's rallied. It pretty much gave up that entire rally here in the last couple of weeks, but then having a good day today, popping off. And I'd be watching this one. You got a clear line in the sand now. You can put 1030 as your new support zone to be watching in the very short term, but breaking above 1180 it looks like a good breakout and things get going. This is the first early signal, especially considering the volume that it's putting in on the daily candle. On the 4-hour chart, volume's coming in as well. Nice little power pivot, breaking above some very near-term resistance here as it does that. So NEO, definitely one to be watching here. Again, hasn't broken out on the daily, still in the range, but you're getting those early signals that it may be wanting to go. Let's go look at NEO on the dollar pair real quick. I haven't looked at the dollar pair. NEO USD tether. You know, it looks very much like Bitcoin, just kind of following the general trend, and that's evident because the sideways channel on the BTC pair. So makes sense. But if you're looking at the dollar pair, 920 is your level to watch on the downside, and right now, I mean, that's pretty decent little resistance to be watching for this breakout. If it starts to hold above, what is that, 10, call it 1070, 1060 on the daily, that looks good. Next target above that, 1150, and then you're in breakout mode. So there's NEO. Let's do the OMG. Coinbase apparently still has it. Wow, who would have thought? I mean, Coinbase pumps were a thing of the past, but here we go. OMG, nice little rally. It's been on the radar for about a week and a half now, ever since this first little rally that it did right back here. It gave you a classic consolidation. Look at that, moving averages just held beautifully. Another big pop on volume, very tight flag, and then boom, the big move started. It is getting climactic here, and so you can tell by the big volume at the highs, wide and loose. If you're trailing it, just keep an eye on those short-term moving averages. That's probably your first line in the sand on the way up. As long as it holds that, I mean, why not, right? On the daily charts, not a lot of help here. Certainly RSI at 95, well above the daily 10 EMA. If I was not in it and I wanted to get in, I would personally not chase it at this point, and I'd look for something on the shorter time frames as a signal. But you know, it's just a rule of thumb, right? If you're really into something, wait for that RSI to pull back at least. Don't buy it when it's already moved a couple 100% and the daily RSI is at 95. Fight the FOMO. You missed it. You just missed it. Face it. But hey, yeah, the last Coinbase entries didn't do anything, which was really surprising that OMG did, to be honest. But finally, right, OMG, long time coming on that guy. Let's go look at Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash. You guys remember this? Bitcoin Cash? Let's go look at the BTC pair here. So apparently that little double bottom that I was looking for didn't really play out. Hasn't really rallied either, but on the positive, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, it's held support so far. Very much range bound. Probably not a bad little breakout candidate in terms of reversal trade, but I'd be looking at this range here. Getting above, what is that, 2600 would look ideal, and then I'd probably set up a run to the next resistance level around 0.028 and then going from there. Go to the daily chart though. I mean, just brutal, right? No love for this one, but a lot of alts have been in this mode for some time, which is why I'm starting to get interested in thinking they might start popping off the lows, and you know how those go. When they finally do, those first moves off the lows can be pretty good on a percentage basis. So definitely keep an eye on these little ranges that are starting to form here at the lows. But it's like anything else, right? You can't be in them all. Pick your poison. Do the ones you like better, the setups that are stronger, or wait for those breakouts. A lot of times what I'll do on these scenarios, right, is I'll put some buy stop orders around these levels. Maybe not for my whole position, but I'll put some initial orders there with some alerts, of course, and if it pops through, then at least I'll be in on the initial pop, and then I'll assess it from there. But there's different strategies for all of that. You can always wait. And of course, a lot of it depends on what Bitcoin does here. If Bitcoin does one of these, I don't know. Those alts might not all hold up. I just want to see Bitcoin go sideways for a little bit here, and I think alts will do well. Cardano. Looking at Cardano has been one on my radar, looking very nice. If you look at the daily chart, it was in this consolidation mode, pulling back, held support, rallied lower high, held support again, and it just set up for a very clean setup here. Basically, this trend line was the level to be watching, and of course you broke it. You had a good little rally, a pullback to the moving average, and it's still bouncing here. So Cardano's looking pretty good. I like it from the longer term chart as well. Very range bound, potentially setting out for a big move if it can break out of this big resistance level, which is, what is that, 700 sat basically. Above that, there's not a lot of resistance. It could run for quite some room. I mean, there's several levels along the way, but I think the momentum would really start to kick in at that point. Right now, it's just kind of ranging, but I think there's some opportunity here. Near term, that's the first target around that 700 level if it can get going. It's about a 15% move, and then above that, you know, you're talking next level up is a 37%, 30% plus, and then you go from there. So there's some potential here. On the downside, if it starts to lose this trend line, I'd probably get out of the way. I wouldn't give it down to this, but this is your max, right? Below 510, and it doesn't look too pretty. My only alt position right now is ETH. I've been going slow lately. I've just been mostly trading BTC, scalping it long and short. Well, I've been net long, but I've been scalping the shorts, and then ETC. And ETC as well as it's kind of a longer term buy for me during the crash, which was not that long ago. Feels like so long ago, but during the crash. When it did this, I added some long-term ETH positions. A little bit too early, but not bad. It was mostly, my average was probably in the 130 range. And that was the first time I had added some fresh capital to long-term ETH in a long time. So we'll see how that one plays out. But above 220 ETH, I think it looks good. BTC wide side, it's already breaking out. We'll see if it can break out here over 220. What else here? Let me go to this. Let's go through some of these here first and see how some of these names look here. Looking at the link BTC showing a little bit of trending action here the last few days. Here's the 4-hour view, breaking out of this resistance. Pretty nice little move. Look at the volume that came in. That was a good little power pivot as well. It popped on volume there. That was the breakout candle, and has continued to show some follow through, now clearing this next target level here. So I'd be watching those little pullbacks. When you get these little pullbacks to the moving averages, they look to be holding so far until they don't, but so far so good. And again, on the bigger picture, that daily chart, you know, this is just a big symmetrical pattern. You've got this swing high, you got this low, another swing high, lower low, you got this another one here. And so what you'd be looking for is either a clear breakout from this, so meaning your next target's going to be up here, or if this continues, right, another little tightening here. But if that's the case, that looks pretty positive if it starts to do one of those consolidations, right? So if it runs to here and then pulls back, I'd eventually be expecting a retest of that 5,500 level and then a breakout. So longer term, it looks pretty positive, especially if the alts start to rally in mass. Link traditionally has done pretty well and it has held up. I mean, look at this chart compared to some of those other alt BTC pairs. I mean, this looks way stronger than some of those other ones. The other ones are the complete opposite, right? They've been in blah, just died off the vine there. That one's not too bad. So that's Link. Let's do EOS. EOS was another one I was looking for some bounce. Nothing yet. I'm maybe getting close to pulling the trigger, but I've been watching this one here. It hasn't convinced me yet, but I'm thinking it's getting close. It's at least going sideways now. It's been in this pullback mode, but all these little rallies have just been lower lows so far. But maybe this is the one. Maybe. At least it held this one. If I wanted to jump on it here, I'd keep it really tight just because, you know, you're always better off betting on strength. But if you're looking for a reversal, that'd be me. You know, so it'd be what, 2670 would probably be my max. You could certainly go with the swing low here, but it looks like it wants to bounce here. And then again, my first target would probably be 3,000 to around 3,200. This little zone there. How much of a move is that? It's not even that big of a move. It's only about 10-15%. And then above that, right, certainly you could go much higher if it gets going. That's a big resistance level, though, so that'd be my first target. And then anything above that, then look for those higher lows to be set on the daily, and then things get going, right? That'd be a true trend change at that point. Right now, you're not seeing the trend change yet. Bouncing, potentially, but not exactly a trend change on the macro scale just yet. Inverse head and shoulder. Yeah, I mean, you could argue for that. It's a little flat. Not my ideal head and shoulder, but I think the concept's the same. If it breaks above this resistance, that's a good sign. It's not a real strong inverse head and shoulder, but the potential is there. All right, so let me see which ones we've done here. So we've done the ETH, we've done BTC, we've done NEO, Bitcoin Cash, Link, EOS. I'm going to mark off my list here as I go through them, so that way I know which ones I've done. Try to get through as much of the other ones as we can here. So we did Link here. Let me see. Loom. Oh my God. Loom Power. Poet. Oh my goodness. That's a name from yesterday. Let's go through some of those names here, if we must. Loom bouncing back from the dead. Man, look at this long-term daily chart. Yikes, just flattish. Probably not my cup of tea, but you know, it's certainly getting some volume here on the bounce, but it's going to have a lot of resistance levels along the way with these big wicks here. It's just a lot of selling near the highs. On a percentage basis, though, could make for a big move, right? That's 20, 30, 40%, but with these names, the risks, the downside, and the quick moves down negate a lot of that, so you got to offset it with a smaller position size. But hey, Loom Power. I've got the power. Let's see. Looking at the power. Nice little base here. Let me clear this one out. Let's see this little support zone that came in right there. So that's your good line in the sand around 800 sats. Next resistance level, if it can close above this on the daily chart, that looks pretty good. Range bound right now. Again, some momentum going, but one to watch. One to definitely watch. Weekly chart, way down near the lows, but some volumes coming in. So, yeah, I'd keep an eye on this one. Power. Poet. Oh my gosh, Poet. I don't really want to look at it, but why not? I got to see what this one looks like. Poet. Oh my gosh, look at this. I remember this guy. I think that was the last time I looked at it when I put these arrows back here, which was October of 2018. Litecoins pushing above. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this guy, but we'll move on from here. Get through some of the other big names first. NAS. Big spike off the low on the daily charts. A lot of volume coming in on that one too. Anybody know what's going on with this one? I don't know what's driving this, but nice little move there in the last couple of days. 4-hour candles. I always wonder with these names though, these small cap, they're very easy to move because they're so illiquid that is it a flash in the pan move? Is it just one of those type of things, right? It's always hard to tell with these. Quantum. You remember that one? Quantum. Nice little move here the last couple days. Big pop off the lows. Big resistance clear right there on volume too. Just popped right through that and has shown some pretty good follow through here. The daily chart, however, kind of looks like day one, right? I mean, you basically have this drop, went flat, and then just in the last 24 hours, boom, big spike up. I'd be looking at this target first to see if it could pause, consolidate below that, and then get going, potentially set up for another leg up to these levels. But nice little volume there. Ontology, similar price action there, pulling off the lows. Not quite as big of a move on the daily and pausing right below this resistance near term, but next level up is going to be around that 4 or 645 on that guy. Elf Wobby. Oh man. Wabi, couple of big days on Wabi. Let me clear this back here. Don't know what that was. But, yeah, this is one of those where, you know, the longer term trend has been very, I mean, look at this. It's just been, the move here is tiny compared to the longer term trend. But, you know, from a tradable perspective, I mean, these are big moves, right? 40% move in 2 days. That's significant, but it does that periodically, right? Here's a 70% move, and then it rolls over. So you just got to take it with a grain of salt because it's not a true trend change, right? Just keep in mind, I keep saying that it's not a true trend change until you finally get the moving averages on the weekly flip in and things start to make higher highs and higher lows. But doesn't mean you can't take the bounce trade. Why not, right? Those are big moves if you're watching them there. Let's see here, Ontology, Ren. Somebody asked for Ren. Let's go jump on that guy there. And so if you're wondering what that list is that I'm going through, that's the trending list. It's automatically updated a couple times a day. And this is, again, trending versus Bitcoin. So it's looking at the alt BTC pairs, even though it has the dollar pricing as well. And then it's ranked from 4-hour BMI. So the stronger 4-hour BMI is at the top. And it goes down the list, lower BMIs here near the bottom. But this is a good list to kind of show you what's gaining some momentum versus Bitcoin. It's, you know, it's curated real time, so it's good. Wabi, what we're looking at, Ren. Looking at that Ren BTC here. Nice move here. Yeah, pretty good. Somebody asked about this one here. Good breakout. Look at that volume coming into that candle here today. Any throwbacks would be an ideal place to watch, right? If you can get throwback to that, that'll let the moving averages catch up as well. A little bit overheated here near term, but next big target is up here, so could be heading straight to that point. I'd be looking at that. That'd be new all-time highs on this guy here on the Binance exchange if it hit that. So nice. This one doesn't have a lot of history. It goes back to 2019, so good. It's got some momentum for sure. KMD's on the list here. Looking at this guy, gaining some momentum here the last few days. It did hold the support again, and so that's important to note, right? It has held the line, and it's just trying to get going here, a little bit of a bounce. One thing I would look at is, you know, if it's not going to go all the way back up to the line up here, you could look at some fib targets, right? So it's almost at the 382. Next one would probably be the 618. That'd be a good target to be watching here. Then above that, then yeah, you want to look at the next line here, but that's you know, it's still about 15-20%, even just the next the 618 fib. So I'd be watching that one, but I don't know what it is about KMD. It's just one of those names that I just don't like to trade for whatever reason. ARK's the same thing. I've traded in the past, and I just can't for whatever reason. But I know some of you guys do, so I'll look at it. ARK. Yeah, it's just this near-term chart here in the last 3 or 4 months. I mean, just it's tough. I mean, look at this. It's just very choppy, very not clean. Nano, Mana. Let's see. Oh, Phantom was one I was watching earlier. FTM. Mostly because I'm watching this range potentially starting to finally develop here. It's been just in drop mode forever. I mean, look at this. Just dropping all year. Finally found a low versus Bitcoin in March and has just been consolidating. But I'd be watching for a little bit of a breakout above 60, 65 SAT. Again, small caps, low SAT name. If you go to the big picture, it's just mostly been in downtrend mode since it's, you know, been trading here. But maybe finding a low, maybe. Does Node Investor look at the chat ever? Yeah, once in a while. Once in a blue moon. Hey, I'm talking while looking at the charts, and once in a while I'll look at the charts, and read the chat at the same time. It's a skill, my friends. It's a skill. And drink water at the same time. S30. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. WAN chain, Theta. Yeah, we'll look at Theta. That's a name I've been pulling up here recently on these live streams. Wax, UBT. Oh man, we're going old school here. BNT. Solve. All right. Let's go here. So I'm going to do a few more of the early requests, and then we'll go through some of those lists here. Oh, goody. Let's see what the deal is here. Oops, wrong one. And then we'll pop over back to Bitcoin here. I want to keep an eye on it during the stream. The 4-hour chart on this one's not bad. I wouldn't complain. I mean, it's certainly, it's pretty clear, right? Higher highs, higher lows. There's a very clear channel starting to develop here, so that's what I'd be watching. Anything below that trend line, then I'd be cautious. But you could see a little bit of a pullback right to that line. So if it does continue higher and does pull back, about 215, that's probably the most I'd give it. Moving averages are your friend here. But on the way up, I'd be looking, I mean, it's right, that's interesting, that intersects right with that upper line there. But 240, and then above that, you've got quite a bit of room to run if it breaks above 240. So the trend is your friend until it bends, as they say. But yeah, it's potentially bouncing off the lows here. Longer term chart, not that hot. I mean, it's just wide and loose, choppy. This looks like nothing more than a bounce, but maybe that's the low. Maybe. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that's the low just yet because I don't know. It's nothing telling me that it is. QSP. Man, Quantstamp. Wow. Does this still trade? Quantstamp. Look at the low volume on this bad boy. I don't know. What do you like about it? Quantstamp. Somebody asked about it. Is it there's something fundamental that's potentially coming with the project that you like about it? I know it was one of the Tika names for a while, many years ago. I think he recommended it like way back here. Buy, no stop. Remember? No stop loss. Gotta love that. Things you will never hear note investors say. No stop loss. But it's still range bound. I don't know. ADA. Oh, we covered this one actually at the beginning. Yeah, I like it. Simple as that. Well, I like the setup. Let's not get into a fundamental philosophical project discussion. Why do you like Cardano? It's vaporware. There's nothing there. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the charts here. IOTA, another vaporware. There's nothing there. The Tangle doesn't exist. But looking at the chart here, but I've been watching this one because I kept thinking this would be one of those oversold bounce trades, and IOTA is actually a pretty good trade when it does move. I mean, it tends to get some momentum when it finally gets going. So I don't know. Near term though, this is interesting. The daily chart has just been really tight, consolidating. You had this big outside day. Today's green again, so I'd be watching it. 4-hour charts. This is really the level to be watching here. Closing above that, which is getting really close. I mean, it's 2200 starts to hold above that. You could see a little bit of a breakout move on the downside. 20225 or so is going to be your line in the sand. So there you go. If I was putting my strict trading methodology on this, 2-to-1 minimum risk reward ratio, I'd be saying, okay, if I bought it there, most I'd give it would be around here. That's about a 6-7%, which means you need 12 or more on the upside. That's let's go more to get 2-to-1 right there. It's about 13%. Does that make sense? Could it do that? Yeah, probably could. I mean, that's that's only right here. So that's how I view the world when I look at these potential trades. But there's other factors. You want to look at if it does break out, is there volume? Is there better candidates? All that good stuff. Wax Zill. Didn't Wax change their ticker? Wax P on Bittrex. Doesn't trade a whole lot on the Finex. Yeah, I guess lately it's been, well, that's funny. It started trading all that volume, but yeah. What's going on with Wax? I noticed Mana was also running here, and Engine and some of these other names. Interesting. Watch those moving averages, though. It's a pretty good little breakout on that daily. after a nice drop. Good breakout. Speaking of mana, looking at the Decentraland here, starting to tighten up, little range bound. You know, I gotta say though, with Decentraland, like, you would have thought in this quarantined environment, something like this was it. Like, this was its moment, right? The VR world and all that stuff that's taken off. Oh man, like, it should have been ready. And I know they're trying. I get their emails, and you know, they have parties and they have casinos and all that stuff, but it just lacks. I mean, most of the time when I've been on there, I don't know, it's okay, I guess. It's not as busy as some of the others. Like, if you're done like the Oculus Rift poker rooms and stuff, I mean, that's like 100 times better. It just feels so much real. You can voice chat, and it's true VR, and like, okay, I don't have my own token, but man, that's, you know, that's who you're competing against, right? Even though I get it's not decentralized, but that's who you're competing against, is those gaming platforms. But anyway, let's keep going here. So IOTA, Wax, Zill, Ran. Let me see what else real quick. I'm going to cycle through. I'm going to go hit some of the big cap names that I want to look at before I wrap up here. But looking at Zill, Zill has just been on a nice little move. We looked at this one in the past. It hit the resistance here, pulled back, and nice little breakout. Pullbacks so far have been bought up. It's got a few levels up to go. Pretty much the same scenario as the last live stream, but obviously now it's broken out and holding above this resistance level, which is good. First time in a long time. First time since August of 2019. So good stuff there. Oh, WAN chain. There's a name from yesteryear. Looking at the WAN chain. Maybe getting going here. Getting above that, starts to turn the corner here. A little bit of a higher low, higher high starting to set up, but that's your first target there, about 2140. And then you got this level and this level up. So, but yeah, WAN chain, a little bit of volume here. Small cap. Icon, Cardano, we looked at that. Solve. Somebody was asking about Solve. Let's go to a different exchange here. But yeah, it's certainly seen some volume there. Let's go to KuCoin. Nice wick on KuCoin. So what's up with Solve? Somebody pumping it? Solve. It's vaccines on the blockchain. I'm kidding. It's a joke. Engine. Remember when everything was going to be on the blockchain? Remember those days? It's this, but on the blockchain. It's that, but on the blockchain. It's dental coin. My dentist is going to accept tokens. Yeah, it's interesting here on this guy here. Engine 2200 or 2100 starts to break some resistance here. Theta Fuel. Let's go look at Theta. I forgot somebody was asking about Theta. Theta has been on a tear since. Look at this. I mean, same scenario. This is what I'm looking at for so many of these alts is they've built out these long ranges. I remember we talked about Theta for months. Theta. And I kept saying, wait till it breaks out of this little resistance. I mean, that's it. That's your target. And once it gets going, generally a pretty quick move after that. Nice little pop here. What's this? 75% here as of today. At the peak was up about 100%. Not too shabby. Altcoins. That's why people like crypto, because of those moves. Tron. Oh man, Justin, what's going on, man? Not enough pumping of the Tron. Justin, he's selling on you guys. That's what's happening. Every time it pumps, he just sells. I'm kidding. I have no information that would signify that. But it wouldn't surprise me. Stellar Lumens going flat. But again, I'd be watching these guys. Once they start to crack some of these long-term levels, looks good. Looks real good. I'm going to put a little alert on this guy because it's definitely something I want to watch. below these, you know, until that happens, I'm still probably mostly Bitcoin. XRP. 0x, that's one I wanted to talk about. 0x looks really good here. I'm liking this. Now, I know it pumped, and I know why. I get all that, but the volume's there. It's pulling back, potentially holding supports. So this is where you want to see it start holding. Between here and here, if it does crack that 22 daily moving average, I'd be watching it. Personally, I'm not going to do anything until it starts to recapture this line, this downtrend line. Here's the 4-hour view of that. If it starts to break above that, I like it. Anything below that, I'm going to just wait it out. XRP is a stable coin now. You know, as much as I like to rag on XRP, I got to admit, it has its uses. Because whenever I'm transferring coin from an exchange to an exchange or exchange to a wallet to an exchange, more often than not, I like to use XRP. Man, is that bad? Is that bad that I just said I like to use XRP for what it's really intended to do? But I do. It's because it's so fast, right? It's like the problem with going on an alternative coin, right? If you go Bitcoin, right, you got to wait for the blocks to clear, and the exchange won't let you sell your tokens, and you wait. You know, it's like just shut it down and come back in an hour, right? Like, forget about it. But when you're doing it with XRP, it's like you sell, boom, it's in your wallet, boom, you sell it again, and back to whatever you want to do. If you want to buy dollars or tethers or Bitcoin, whatever, it's quick. I gotta admit. All right, I came out of the closet. I'm an XRP user. And the fees. Oh, the fees. Anyway. Not that I do that very often, but when I do, it's handy. It's handy. All right, Theta, WAN. Let me see. KNC. We didn't cover KNC, and then I'm going to hop over to some of the big cap names that I wanted to cover that I didn't cover yet. But hey, nice. KNC. Whoever brought this one up. This is looking pretty interesting. I like that. I like this. Yeah. I'll be watching this. It's right near support, which honestly, if you're really positive on this one, you don't risk a whole lot by buying near support. You know, the risk reward is generally pretty favorable. So like something like this, the most I'd give it is, you know, that 61, 60 level. Yeah, I get it. That's a 12% move. So you adjust your size accordingly when you have such a wide stop, but it's offset by the potential upside gain, right? So potentially 18 to 27% to the first resistance, and then above that, about 40%. So not a bad risk reward. UBT, huh? Didn't we bring this one up last time? Does it have more on a different exchange? Because interesting. Here, let me go over here real quick. Some of the names that we didn't cover yet, which I want to focus on here. Some of the big cap names. I'm going to sort this bad boy here. Some of the names. Neo, we looked at that. Link, we looked at that. Tezos, we didn't. And I'm liking this one here as well. XTZ, BTC. Zooming out, big picture. Let me clear this real quick. Let me clear all my mess here. But, you know, you can basically see here this very similar symmetrical pattern, right? Right above support. Again, similar strategy, right? This swing low, it's got to hold now, even if it pulls back. You don't want to give it much more than that. So, you know, 2,600 would probably be my max. Of course, there's this swing low, 2,400. But from a trade perspective, that's the way I'd approach it. The alternative, of course, is, you know, you just wait for this pattern to break out, and then you go with the momentum once it gets going. And so there's a couple ways to do that. But on the upside, you know, you're looking for a retest of that. So to make it work, I'd have to go with like a 2-to-1 ratio. So I'd have to tighten it up, meaning I'd probably be just tracking to the lower time frames, moving averages, that sort of thing, as my stop level. So in that scenario, it'd probably be around right here. That's a really tight stop. If If it starts to roll over, I wouldn't give it much. Otherwise, I'd be looking for pullbacks into that level. And upside potential is pretty good, though, because if it runs up to there, that makes for a nice risk reward at that point. You're looking at a 4-to-1, 5% downside risk for about a 20 to 23% upside potential. So not too shabby. Otherwise, pullbacks down to this line are interesting. But I'm liking that one here. Looking at it from the USD side, looking like it wants to break out. It's got a little bit of an ascending pattern, but again, many of these have the same similar pattern. You had the big drop in March and then the rise, and it's just kind of been doing this little ascending base. Track into BTC in a lot of ways, so a lot of them do that, right? ETH has that pattern, Tezos has that pattern, but they're setting up, so definitely worth watching here. That'd be a good breakout on the USD side. Basically $3 is what you're looking for there. What else here? Tezos, BTC, Tron, EOS, Atom. We haven't talked Atom. Cosmos. Let's go look at that guy here. How's it looking from the BTC side? Maybe it's finally due for a bounce. A little bit of a double bottom. Didn't quite undercut on the RSI, but counter trend rally is all it is at this point. But you know, it's finally at least breaking the downtrend. You had a little double bottom. Higher highs, higher lows start to potentially form on that 4-hour view. If you go to the 4-hour chart, starting to get going. I'll be watching it here, see if we can crack above this guy here. But some volumes coming in here near the lows on the very, very near-term chart, right? Obviously, the bigger picture chart is just a bounce, but some of these alts are waking up. They're coming to life. Now let's see if they can finally, maybe, show some follow-through for once. They haven't yet. Most of these rallies have been short-lived, or they've been overcome by market forces or pandemics or Bitcoin halvings, but we'll see if that finally is behind the alts. But BAT BTC is interesting here. Anything above 2100s looks like it's holding up there pretty good, and finally cracking a little bit of resistance here as well. So BAT BTC, I'm going to put it on the short list here. BAT BTC, ETH, Tezos, Neo, a lot of those. Thanks for being here, man. What were the other ones on my short list? Cardano. When I say short list, I don't mean the bearish short list. I mean like the down selected list. Yeah, I'm not fully like sell all my BTC yet, so I'm starting to get some more alt exposure, but I'm liking the potentials that are starting to set up, especially with a lot of the small cap names starting to show some life, and you get those little rallies off the lows and long-term breakouts, things like Theta. 0x, that's the other one to keep on the short list here. 0x. So let me cycle through some of these real quick here. ETH BTC, again, keep an eye on this guy here. It's getting some momentum. Those are the first near-term targets, as long as it holds the moving averages on the short term. On the 4-hour view, I'd be watching this lower trend line as your stop or support level. That's a breakout. Anything above that, you could just see a throwback entry there. So below that lower trend line, it doesn't look quite as good, but so far so good. Neo BTC, potential breakout candidates, but again, still very much range bound on that daily chart. So just kind of watching it here for now. Link, liking this one here, potentially bouncing, starting to edge out, but some resistance. Definitely want to keep an eye on this one. It could run back up to that 5,200 or so. What was my other one? Cardano, already edged out above the downtrend I was watching. Looks good. Holding the daily 10 EMA. Definitely be watching that guy there. 0x. I'm just watching the pullback here. I want to see this one break above the trend line. It could just as easily plop over and give back all this move. So not something I'd be preempting, but I'd be watching a breakout above this little thing here. And then on the bigger picture, right, a lot of these alts they're just setting up, right? So if you look at something like a Stellar, I get that there's a supply concern there and longer term. So that's why you got to wait for them to finally edge out. But man, they're just, so many of these have been basing out for so long that it's one of those, wait for them to actually crack and you can get a pretty decent move going here. Oh, Litecoin was the other one. that I'm watching here that I like, and it's edging out above resistance here, finally cracking. So looking for those bounce trades. Let's see what the alerts have shown us here. I'm going to see some on the moves and power pivots. Let's see here. Litecoin on the move. EOS, Atom, Quantum, Noia. Don't know what that is. Ren, Tezos. A lot of BTC pairs. VeChain. Oh yeah, VeChain. Remember VeChain? You guys remember VeChain? VeChain. Yeah, nice little double bottom there on VeChain. Volume coming in here on that daily. Flashed an on the move alert, so it's on the move. Let's see how it looks in the dollar pair. Breakout candidate. Like everything else. Breakout candidate, but yeah. Looks good. VeChain. Put it on the short list. VeChain. But yeah, like everything else. Zoom out. VeChain BTC. But you know what? Even if it's just one of these little pops, those make for some big moves. Not saying you're going to get that, but even a little counter trend rally makes for a big move if you get it. All right, I'm going to go to the BTC here and see if there's anything else. But other than that, I think we are going to wrap it up here. I'm going to go get some lunch. Enjoy the nice long weekend. And I'm sure the markets will go crazy and there'll be lots of trading opportunities and everybody will be glued to the charts instead of hanging out outside enjoying the good weather. Right? That's how we roll. That's how we roll in crypto land. All right, so looking at BTC here. Obviously, this is the big picture kind of sim triangle that I've been talking about on the weekly chart. Let's go to that weekly view. Longer term, very positive, very bullish. I think once we start to hold above that 10.5 level on the chart, something to keep an eye on because it breaks this downtrend. It breaks horizontal resistance. Very good stuff. And then, of course, above 12 or so, it's going to just take off, right? So definitely bullish longer term. We never really got that higher low on the weekly. Did we need it? Who knows, right? Like maybe this was about to break out and then the whole pandemic thing threw a wrench into things. Who knows? But I was thinking we would at least see a little bit of a retest and then get going, but that's fine, right? It could just as easily break out from here. And the important thing is that horizontal resistance level. So definitely one to watch. I like the fact that, it's been consolidating in this little ascending base type of setup. That's what I'm watching here, looking for that continuation of that ascending base. Basically don't want to see it get below these wicks. If it does, that looks really negative in my opinion. I'd be looking for a quick drop to the low 7Ks at that point, but that's not the camp I'm in. As long as it continues to consolidate, if it goes sideways, even if it has those little shakeouts, scare-outs, and does one of those before breaking out, this little period of time, right, this couple of weeks, if it can do that long, would make for some good alt rallies in my opinion. I think you'll start to see the alts lead first and break out on the USD pairs if that's the scenario that's going to play out, which is what I'm looking for. So I'm hoping that's the scenario that we do see play out. But always have a plan for both cases. Near term, like I said, I've been scalping here, right? I've been looking like pre-halving, made a little bit on that dump, went long again. Whenever broke out, started a hedge. Sure enough, made a little bit on the dump. They're not huge trades, but they're adding to my net BTC exposure because what I'm doing is when I cover the short, I just flip long Bitcoin on those. So that's what I do. All right. Oh, let me see here. I'm gonna catch up on the comments here a little bit before I exit. Some of the names I was mentioning here, probably my short list right now, and I mean there's plenty out there. A lot of stuff that's momentum trading right now, but as far as kind of breakout candidates or things that are edging above resistance that I'd be keeping an eye on, or pullbacks right into support that I'd be watching. ETH, of course, Litecoin, BAT, Tezos, Neo, maybe. Cardano's already edged out. VeChain, maybe. Keep an eye on it. 0x is pulling back, so I'd be watching that. We covered a few others that weren't bad. Quantum's having a move. Ontology's having a move. There's other things that are moving. VeChain, what else? KNC was another one. KNC, don't forget that one. That was definitely one to be watching here on the BTC pair. So it was looking pretty good on that daily chart, bigger picture view, right above support. So I'd be watching it, but anything below 6,100 starts to look pretty ugly. It'll probably move fast after that if it breaks, but I'd be watching it. And so that's it, mains. Cool. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for the chats. Thanks for being here. As always, I wish you all a good weekend. Stay safe. Stay healthy, my friends. We'll see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.